but went to the free throw line and ended up with 83. Here's the call when he surpassed Kobe Bryant's 81 points last night.
And quickly into Bam. He's got space. Head down, spins, puts it up. And Bam's going to the line again. Bam Adebayo is a complete monster.
And really get the ball into Bam's hand the right way.
Only Wilt Chamberlain has more points in an NBA game in association history than Bam Adebayo, who has 82.
Bam Adebayo scored 83 points, and the internet has not been the same since. The moment that number became official, the moment the final buzzer went off and people realized that Bam Adebayo had officially passed Kobe Bryant on the all-time single-game scoring list, something happened, something big. The Kobe community, the Kobe fans, the people who have been protecting that 81-point record like it was the most sacred thing in all of sports, they completely crashed out. They lost their minds, they came out of the shadows, and they had a lot to say. And on top of that, Gilbert Arenas, one of the most entertaining people in the basketball world, decided to get on camera and troll the entire situation in the funniest way possible. So today, we're going to break all of this down. We are going to go through every reaction, every rant, every crazy take, and every bit of Gilbert Arenas' humor that came out of this wild night. Because this story is not just about the 83 points. It is about what happened after. And what happened after was absolutely something. Let us start with Gilbert Arenas, because honestly, Gilbert set the tone for the entire conversation, and he did it in the best way possible. As soon as the news came out that Bam had scored 83 points and officially passed Kobe's 81, Gilbert got on camera and delivered one of the most entertaining reactions you will ever see. And he did not waste any time getting to the point. He looked into the camera and he basically said, "Bam, congratulations, but brother, you have no idea what you just walked into." He told Bam straight up that the Kobe community was not going to appreciate this, not one bit. He said this record is going to be celebrated on one side and absolutely hated on the other. And the side that is going to hate it is the Kobe fan side, because they no longer have that record. And Gilbert knew exactly what was about to happen before it even happened. And Gilbert was not wrong, not even a little bit, because the moment he said it, you could already feel the energy on the internet shifting. The Kobe fans were already warming up, they were already getting their fingers ready, they were already pulling out their phones and getting ready to come out swinging. Gilbert basically predicted the entire wave of reactions before they even started rolling in. And he did it all with a big smile on his face and that unmistakable Gilbert Arenas energy that makes everything funnier than it should be. But then Gilbert did not stop there, because Gilbert never stops there. He went further. He started doing the math. He looked at Bam's season average going into this game, which was around 19 points per game, and he started breaking down how scoring 83 points in one night was going to affect that average. And he calculated with full comic energy that Bam was now going to be averaging around 21 points per game after the 83-point game. He even joked that if you add up the 83 and carry the numbers and do the math, Bam is now averaging around all the way through, because that is what Gilbert does. Now let us get into the actual Kobe fan reactions, because this is where things got really interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean wild. The Kobe community came out in force. And look, you have to understand something about Kobe fans before we talk about the reactions. Kobe fans are not like regular fans. Kobe fans are on a completely different level. When Kobe was alive, they were intense, they were passionate, they defended him at every turn. They celebrated every record, every milestone, every championship. And now that Kobe is gone, now that he is no longer here, the passion has been amplified to a level that is almost hard to describe. When something touches Kobe's legacy, those fans feel it personally. They feel it in their chest. And when Bam Adebayo scored 83 points and bumped Kobe from second to third on the single-game scoring list, those fans felt every single point like a personal attack. One of the reactions that got a lot of attention came from someone who was asked directly about Bam's 83-point game, and the response was genuinely emotional. The person said they were a big-time Kobe fan and they were salty. flat out salty. Not angry at Bam as a person, but just hurt that the record was gone. And that word salty is actually the perfect word for a lot of Kobe fans' reactions, because they were not necessarily saying Bam cheated or that the game didn't happen. They were just hurt, because that 81-point record felt like it belonged to Kobe forever. It felt like something that was untouchable, and now it's gone. Another fan said they were hurt, straight up hurt. Just repeating it, hurt. Dang it. Because they are Kobe fans. And when you're a Kobe fan at that level, a record like 81 points is not just a number. It's a piece of Kobe's legacy. It's a symbol of what he was capable of. And watching it get passed feels like watching a little piece of that legacy disappear. Now, is that a completely rational way to feel about a sporting statistic? Maybe not.
But sports are not always about being rational. Sports are about emotion, and the Kobe fan community was feeling a lot of emotion on this particular night. Now, let us get into one of the most talked about reactions from the entire night, and that is the epic rant from O'Shea Jackson. For those who do not know, O'Shea Jackson is the son of the legendary Ice Cube, and he is a known Kobe fan, a big Kobe fan. And when Bam scored 83, O'Shea Jackson did not just comment on it casually. He went full conspiracy theory mode and delivered one of the most passionate, unfiltered, absolutely wild rants that came out of this whole situation. O'Shea started off by saying that the Kobe hate propaganda was insane. He was suggesting that the NBA somehow wanted Bam to break this record specifically to damage Kobe's legacy, like as if there was a plan, a coordinated effort, a decision made at the highest levels of the NBA to make sure Kobe's 81-point record would be broken and that people would stop talking about Kobe in the same way. Now, before we even react to that, let us just take a moment to appreciate how deep into it O'Shea went. Because this was not a short comment, this was a full-on deep dive. He was going all the way in. He said, and this is the part that got everybody talking, how does someone with the basketball skills and the physical build of LeBron James, a man who has scored more points than anyone in the history of the entire NBA, not know how to draw a foul the same way he has done his whole career? But then a group of referees decided to send Bam to the free throw line more than anyone has ever been sent in a single game, and this just happens randomly on a Tuesday night. He said a call was made. Those were his words. A call was made, and now nobody knows what is real in this league anymore. And then O'Shea kept going, and this is where it really got out of hand in the best possible way. He started bringing up other things he no longer believed in. He said he no longer believed the 3-1 finals comeback from 2016, where the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from being down 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors, was completely genuine. He said he was hating on it at the time because he wanted Golden State to win, but he had accepted it and moved on. But now, with this Bam situation, he was going back and questioning everything. He said what a coincidence that the historic comeback happened in the same season that the Warriors won 73 games. He said in his heart he now believed a call was made on that too, that the league needed it to go 7 games so they could make more money and generate more attention. Now look, when you get to the point where scoring 83 points makes you go back and question a final series from 2016, you might be a little bit too far gone, and people in the comments started calling O'Shea out for that. They said he was being a crazy, fanatical Kobe fan who was letting his emotions take him somewhere he did not need to go. But O'Shea fired back at those people too, and what he said in response was actually one of the more thoughtful things to come out of this entire rant. He said, as Kobe fans, they would have loved and respected somebody taking Kobe's record if it had been done the right way, because a legitimate player genuinely breaking Kobe's record would have been the closest thing to seeing Kobe's greatness honored and matched. It would have been a real basketball moment. Instead, what they got was something that felt manufactured and forced, and that, he said, is what tarnished it. He continued on and made a specific point about the free throw situation. He said the Heat were up by a lot of points at the time. They never had the deficit that would have made the free throw situation make sense in normal basketball. The Heat were not chasing the game. They were winning big. And yet the fouls kept coming. The free throw attempts kept piling up. He called out the intentional fouling by the Heat, where the team was deliberately fouling the Wizards to stop the clock and get the ball back, and then still getting calls from the referees when they were the ones playing dirty. He gave a shout-out to whoever had Bam in their fantasy league that night, because that was a great fantasy basketball night for sure. But he made it very clear that in his opinion, this was a collective effort, not just by the Heat, but by the league itself to push for a record-breaking night and get close to Wilt Chamberlain's legendary 100-point game. And he ended by calling out Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, by name. He said Adam Silver was wild for this one. Now, whether you agree with O'Shea's conspiracy theories or not, one thing is clear. The man was not holding back. He said everything he was thinking. He got it all out.
Every single thought, every single frustration, every single suspicion, it was all there in that rant. And for entertainment value alone, it was one of the most memorable reactions to come out of this whole situation. Now let us step back and talk about the other NBA players and people around the league who had reactions to Bam's 83-point night. Because it was not just the fans going crazy. People inside the basketball world had plenty to say as well, and the reactions were very mixed. Some people were genuinely impressed and gave Bam his credit. Some people were clearly salty, and some people were somewhere in the middle, trying to be respectful while also pointing out the obvious issues with how the game went. One of the more honest reactions came from someone who was asked about it on camera. They said the first thing they thought about when they heard 83 points was not, wow, that is amazing. The first thing they thought was, how? How did this happen? Because of the way Bam plays, because Bam is not a scoring first player. And then when they saw the breakdown, when they saw that Bam had only made 6 three-pointers but had something like 40 free throw attempts, they said that told the whole story right there. 6 threes and 40 free throws. That tells you everything you need to know about how those 83 points came to be. And that reaction, that honest breakdown, was actually one of the more fair takes of the whole night. Another reaction that came up was from someone who was asked for their thoughts, and they simply said, "I do not really care," and then laughed about it, which honestly is a valid response, because a lot of people looking at the game from the outside, people who do not have an emotional stake in Kobe's legacy or Bam's career, they looked at those 83 points and saw exactly what it was, an impressive number that came with a lot of context that made it hard to fully celebrate without also raising some questions. And then there were the people who decided to straight up defend Kobe and the legacy of the 81-point game by simply breaking down the stats right there on the spot. Someone went on a mini rant pointing out that Kobe shot 60% from the field in his 81-point game. They said Kobe was 53% from three-point range. They noted that Kobe shot 23 free throws and made 18 of them. And they compared all of that to Bam's game, where the free throws were excessive and the field goal percentage was nowhere near 60%. And their conclusion was simple. I am not buying this. I am still rocking with Kobe's 81, because the numbers tell a very different story about the quality of the two performances. And that is actually a very fair point to make. When you put the two games side by side and you look at the actual field goal numbers, the shooting percentages, the ratio of made shots to free throw attempts, the games look completely different. Kobe's 81 was built on jump shots, post moves, pull-up twos, deep threes, and yes, some free throws, but free throws that came naturally within the flow of a real competitive basketball game. Bam's 83 was built largely on free throw attempts that came as a result of intentional fouling, garbage time manipulation, and a team making a collective decision to get their star player to a record number at any cost. Now, there was also a specific thing that came up in a lot of conversations, which was Bam's stat of most free throws made in a single game in NBA history. Bam set that record too during this game. He took more free throws than anyone has ever taken in a single NBA game and made more than anyone ever has. And the reaction to that specific record was almost universal, Because when you think about the most free throws made in a single game in NBA history, you imagine an elite scoring machine, a player known for drawing fouls and getting to the line constantly throughout their entire career. And the fact that the record belongs to a guy who was averaging 19 points a game and had a season high of 32 before this game, that is just a lot to process. It is a record that will be in the books forever, but the circumstances around how it got set are going to follow it forever too. Let us also talk about the broader conversation that all of these reactions opened up, because it goes beyond just Kobe fans being upset or Gilbert Arenas cracking jokes. What this whole situation really brought to the surface is a question about what we value in basketball and what we consider to be real. Because in the end, that is what people are actually arguing about when they debate whether Bam's 83 should be treated the same as Kobe's 81. On one side of the argument, you have people who say a point is a point. The rules of basketball allow for free throws. If the defense fouls you, you get to shoot free throws.
That is how the game works. It has always been how the game works. And if Bam scored 83 using the rules of basketball, then 83 is 83. The record is legitimate. Put it in the books and give the man his credit. On the other side, you have people who say context matters in everything. That looking at how points were scored, in what situation, against what kind of competition, and under what circumstances is not hating. It is just being honest. And when you look at the context of Bam's 83, the Wizards being a tanking team, the game being a blowout, the Heat intentionally fouling to get the ball back, the garbage time free throw festival in the fourth quarter, the context is not flattering. And that context does matter when you are comparing this to Kobe's 81, which happened in a competitive game where the points actually served the purpose of winning. Both sides of that argument have merit. And that is what makes this conversation so interesting and so ongoing. It is not black and white. It is a gray area. And gray areas in basketball, especially when they touch the legacies of beloved players, tend to generate exactly the kind of passionate reactions that we saw from Gilbert Arenas, from O'Shea Jackson, from Kobe fans everywhere, and from people around the NBA. And speaking of Kobe's legacy, it is worth saying this clearly. Nothing that happened in this game actually erases what Kobe did. Nothing. The 81-point game Kobe put up in 2006 against the Toronto Raptors was one of the most legitimate, jaw-dropping individual performances in the history of professional basketball. It happened in a real game that the Lakers were losing at halftime. It happened against a real NBA team that was trying to win. And it happened because Kobe Bryant was simply on another level that night as a basketball player. Nobody took that away. The record book might now list Bam above Kobe in terms of single-game scoring, but the respect and the legacy attached to Kobe's 81 has not moved 1 inch. Most real basketball fans, even the ones who are not die-hard Kobe fans, understand the difference between what Kobe did and what Bam did, and that understanding is why the conversation around Bam's 83 will always include the asterisk. The number will be in the books, but the story around the number will also be in the books, and the story is very complicated. What Gilbert Arenas did with his reaction was something really clever, even if it was mostly comedy. He acknowledged both things at once. He gave Bam his credit in one breath and trolled the whole situation in the next. He pointed out that the Wizards could have stopped Bam if they really wanted to. They could have double-teamed him, they could have played a zone defense, they could have made life hard for him. They chose not to, and that is on them. But at the same time, Gilbert made it very clear in his own funny way that this record is going to carry baggage, that the Kobe fan community was not going to let this go quietly, and that Bam, whether he likes it or not, is now attached to one of the most debated games in recent NBA history. And the drug test joke, as funny as it was, also kind of pointed to the absurdity of the moment. When a guy who averages 19 points a game suddenly scores 83, the human brain does not know how to process it. It feels impossible. It feels like something that should not have happened. And jokes are often how people process things that feel impossible. Gilbert used humor to say what a lot of people were thinking in a way that was entertaining rather than mean-spirited, and it landed perfectly because of that. The other thing that came out of all these reactions that is worth discussing is the love and respect that so many people showed for Kobe even in the middle of all this chaos. Because even the people who were upset, even the people who were crashing out, even O'Shea Jackson in the middle of his full-blown conspiracy theory rant, the love for Kobe was at the center of all of it. These people were not being crazy for no reason. They were being crazy because they loved Kobe Bryant. They loved what he represented. They loved what that 81-point game meant to them as fans. And when something you love feels like it is being messed with, your emotions take over. That's just human nature. And you know what? It's actually kind of beautiful in a strange way, that years after Kobe is gone, his fans are still this passionate. Still this fired up? Still defending his legacy with this kind of energy? Kobe built something with his career that goes beyond basketball. He built a connection with people that still feels real and alive even now. And the reaction to Bam's 83 points is in many ways a tribute to how powerful that connection is. You do not crash out like that over a number unless the person attached to the number meant something really deep to you. Now, the person who was giving their final thoughts on all of this made a point that was actually very balanced and worth highlighting. They said that, yes, there was some manipulation involved with the fouls and the way the fourth quarter was managed. They acknowledged that. They were not blind to it. But they also said the Wizards were still a professional basketball team. They still had professional NBA players on the court. If they really wanted to stop them, they could have stopped him. They could have run a triangle and 2 defense. They could have made sure Bam never got the ball. They could have done a lot of things differently. They chose not to. And because they chose not to, the points counted, the record stands, and at the end of the day, you have to give Bam some credit for being in the right place at the right time and making the most of the situation he was given. That is actually a pretty fair take. Because even with all the controversy, even with all the free throws and the garbage time and the intentional fouling and the manufactured nature of the fourth quarter, Bam still had to make those free throws. Bam still had to keep his composure in a building full of noise and pressure and history happening in real time. Bam still had to be the one standing at the line with the crowd watching and knock down shot after shot. That is not easy. Even from the free throw line, that is not easy, and Bam did it. He made 39 of 43 from the line. He kept it together. He finished the job. Whatever you think about how the game was set up, the man executed. But here is where we land on all of this. The 83 points are in the books. The record is official. Bam Adebayo is now officially the second highest single-game scorer in NBA history, behind only Wilt Chamberlain. And whether you believe the game was completely legitimate or you think it was manufactured and inflated, that number is not going anywhere. It will be in the record books forever. Bam's name will be there, right above Kobe's, for as long as basketball exists. But what will also be there forever is the conversation about it, the debate, the context, the free throws, the blowout fourth quarter, the Gilbert Arenas jokes, the O'Shea Jackson rant, the Kobe fans crashing out all over social media. All of that is part of the story now. You cannot separate the number from the story that surrounds it, and the story is messy and complicated and full of emotion from every direction. What Kobe did in 2006 will always be looked at as one of the purest, most incredible individual performances in basketball history. Clean, legitimate, competitive, and breathtaking. What Bam did will be looked at as a record that came with a lot of question marks, a lot of free throws, and a lot of people crashing out on social media for very different reasons. And in many ways, the reaction to Bam's 83 actually made the whole thing more entertaining than the game itself. Because watching Gilbert Arenas troll the situation, watching Kobe fans lose their minds, watching O'Shea Jackson go fully off the rails into conspiracy theory territory, watching NBA players give honest and sometimes salty reactions, all of that was genuinely great content. It was a reminder of why we love basketball culture so much, because even in the middle of controversy, even in the middle of debate, even when things get a little messy, the conversations that basketball generates are unlike anything else in sports. And that is the real story of Bam's 83-point game. Not just the points, not just the record, but the avalanche of reactions that came after. The Kobe fans, Gilbert Arenas, O'Shea Jackson, the NBA players giving honest takes,
all of it coming together to create one of the most talked about moments in recent basketball memory. Love it or hate it, agree with it or question it, you cannot say it was boring. And in basketball, that counts